Today we're doing objective 135. Students will be able to calculate percent of change. Now, I want to emphasize change could be both good or bad, right? So we should note that change has two directions. One, it could be positive, and the other, it could be negative. And now, if we have no change, then we have no change. But as a reminder, we do have two directions. So I'm going to go with kind of a more creative outlook to this. So we have this guy named Bob, and when I last saw Bob, he looked like this. Later, I saw Bob, and he looked like this. Now, if I ask you what changed about Bob, hopefully you realize that he's wearing a really cool hat. So, Bob plus this hat equals new Bob. What that's going to remind us of is, there's a start, something changed, and then that gave us the end, or new Bob, right? But if I ask you what changed, you wouldn't say Bob, Bob with a hat, all of that, right? The change itself is the hat, and that is exactly what we're going to focus on. We're going to look at the difference or the change from the start to the end. Now, we're going to do 3 examples together. We're going to have a starting point of 50, and we're going to have an ending point of 75. We're going to calculate the change. We're going to go off that same model that we saw earlier, so I'm going to go ahead and write start. There's going to be a change either added or subtracted. And then we're going to get our ending point. Filling in what we know that we started off with 50, we ended with 75, and going from 50 to 75, we know that there is a positive increase. So we're going to be adding a value to get to 75. This change or increase is 25. Now, let's make a note that we're not actually focusing on how much it changed, just a value of how much it changed, but we're looking for the percent of change. This is not a percent. So please note, we are looking for the percent of change compared to or from the original. We're saying how much of the original has changed. So here, we can take our change, which is 25. We're going to compare that or find what percent of that of the original, which is 50. And we're going to divide. This should get us 0.5. Now, this is a decimal. Again, going back to the definition, we are finding the percent. So to convert this decimal into a percentage, we're going to multiply by 100, and this will state that our percent change is a 50% increase from the original. Now, example 2, our start will also be 50, but here our end will be 100. Set up your equation as so. And let's go ahead and fill in what we know. We know that we're starting off at 50, positive or negative? Well, going from 50 to 100, we can see that there was an increase. Specifically, 50 to 100, there was an increase of 50. So our change is 50. And that gave us our end result of 100. Now, we don't want to know what that value is. We want to know what percent of the original that is. So if we take 50, again, I'm going to write down, this is our change. We're saying what part of that, of the original, and our original is also 50, which should look kind of strange to you. 50 over 50 gives us 1. Now, we converted this into a decimal. We want this as a percent. So we're not saying that it increased by 1. We know that we already found that it increased by 50. But finding this as a percent, we realized that it increased by 100%. So it took the entire value and it doubled, right? So this is a 100% increase from the original. So I'm going to walk you through practice 1. After I'm finished with practice 1, I want you to go back and do these 2 examples on your own and also finish the rest of this page as practice. Okay? So the first thing that you're going to want to notice is, do I have a starting point? Do I have an ending point? Do I have a change? What do I have? That's the most important thing to realize, right? So I noticed that I have a starting point and I have an ending point, and I'm going to have to calculate the percent of change. So before we get started, let's go ahead and write down our equation. Start plus or minus change equals end. Our start is 15. Our end is 8. And now we can focus on, is there an increase or a decrease? What direction is this going in? Well, if we're starting off at 15 and we're going to 8, you should realize that this was a decrease. It went down by 7. So we can use this minus sign to indicate that there was a decrease of 7. We want to compare how much of this, of the original, do we have. So we are looking for what is the change in comparison or over to the original. Well, that would be, and I'm actually going to take my negative sign with it so I remember that this was a decrease and not an increase. It is really important to indicate whether something went up or down. Think of your grades. If I say, oh, your grades have changed with a smile, you're thinking it went up, and I'm like, oh, actually it went down 30%. That would make a pretty significant impact. Okay. So we have negative 7 divided by 15. This gives us, as a decimal, 0.46 repeating. Okay. We don't want it as a fraction. We don't want it as a decimal. We want it as a percent. So we're going to take our decimal, and we're going to multiply by 100, and we're going to get 46.66 repeating percent. We recommend that you round to the tens place. So let's round to the tens place. So we'll look to our right here, and we should approximate to 46.7%. And I almost forgot, this is a negative value. Negative divided by positive is negative. And this will just help me realize that it was a 46.7% decrease. Using this example as your model, go ahead and finish this entire page. Also make sure to finish any problems that we might have assigned in class. As always, if you have any questions, come prepared in class, and we'll definitely be sure to go over them. Have a wonderful day.